I'm Nicole Matthews, corporate America dropout turned entrepreneur and owner of the Henley Company, an event, travel, and lifestyle management firm. It wasn't that long ago that I was dreading my drive to my fancy corporate job each day or felt disenfranchised with the work I was doing. In 2007, I jumped off the corporate escalator and directly into the elevator of opportunity. Today, I'm an author, speaker, educator, and serial asker. I wholeheartedly believe that your life changes when you start creating your own opportunities and making big asks. Hands down, the business and life I have today is 100% the product of giving myself permission to design the life I want to live. It was always my dream to work at the Olympics, and by making a big ask, that dream became a reality. I now have multiple Olympic projects to add to my life resume. I created the Big Ask podcast to share these best practices with you. Whether you're an entrepreneur hungry for revenue-generating tips or an individual restless to make a significant change, the life you want to live could be just one big ask away. Get ready to be entertained by real-life stories, no-filter conversations, and inspired by the daily hustle. So let's get started. This is the Big Ask Podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Big Ask Podcast. I'm Nicole Matthews. Today, we're going to go deep into networking and the power of connection. And I'm happy to introduce Bobby Umar, one of the most prolific heart-based leaders in North America. Check out these credentials. He's been named one of the top 100 leadership speakers, one of the top influencers in the world with over 500,000 followers, 5 times TEDx speaker. He hosts a weekly tweet chat called The Power of Connection, which reaches over 65 million impressions weekly. And he's also one of the top 7 networking gurus. Pretty impressive, Bobby. So coming to us from Toronto today, Bobby, welcome to the Big Ask Podcast.
Thanks, Nicole. Happy to be here.
Oh, it's so great to see you. It's been a while since you and I have actually seen each other face to face. So it's really nice to connect to you. Thank goodness for technology.
So I gave a networking connection, right? It's great.
That's right. Exactly. The power of networking. So I gave a little bit of your background there in the intro, but tell us a little bit more about Bobby.
Sure. For the most part, I've been a professional speaker and trainer for 15 years, traveling around the world to conferences and companies and schools and colleges talking about leadership. And in that, the 3 kind of themes kind of emerged from my expertise. One was networking, authentic connection with people. The second one was on personal branding. And the third one is on digital influence and digital social media marketing. And I kind of relate them all to my main hashtag brand, which is called the Power of Connection. Personal branding is connection with the self, networking is connection with others, and digital marketing is connection with the world. And so I've been doing that for 15 years. And in the last 5 years, I've started recently launching online programs as well as coaching around networking. I have a networking master program, a speaker mastermind program, speaker confidence program, and now I'm launching a personal branding program. So I do a little bit of that, and it's been a lot of fun. And then in the current COVID world, I've had to do a significant major pivot to doing more coaching consulting and just do more virtual stuff. And that's really what I'm focusing on now.
Great. So I don't think most little boys want to grow up to be a professional speaker. So how did you eventually, figure out that was where you could best serve the world?
Well, it was nagging at me for many, many years, but I was ignoring the signs, and when I was working in brand marketing and I did an offsite and I just kind of ran a team building event and they're like, wow, you're still going to relate it back to business. You ever thought about doing this for a living? I was like, no, not really. I want to make it to the VP level. I want to make it big in this industry. And then I was working for a couple of youth programs, and I met a motivational speaker who said, Bobby, you're so good at making emotional connection. You should do this for a living. I was like, no, I'm trying to make it in the corporate world, And then finally, when the corporate world didn't really pan out as well as I wanted, and I was trying to think what's my next move, my 4 best friends said, have you ever thought about doing speaking for a living? And I was like, you know what? I have. And so then I dove into my personal brand, and I spent about 3 to 6 months kind of figuring out my values and what I cared about. Did a bunch of surveys. I had a lot of time, I had a nice package, so I wanted to figure it out. And what screamed at me was certain aspects of my brand that said, nurturing people, performing, persuading, influence, diversity. And I was like, you know what? Speaking is the way to go. And so that's when I decided to completely go full in and launch my business.
And I think it can be kind of overwhelming to get onto the professional speaking circuit. So let's break down those steps if we can. So if I want to now become a professional speaker, what's your best advice for me on the road for that?
Well, number one is figure out who the target audience is, who you serve, and how you serve them. I think that's the first thing, because you can't serve everybody. I have a message for the world. That doesn't work. If you want to build a business, it's got to be very specific. Then number two, a lot of speakers don't know how to create a strong speaker brand story. So having a brand around themselves, a speak story around themselves, as well as key topics that they will put out there and people are going to want to buy and purchase and hire them for. I think they have a hard time doing that. And the third thing is you got to put together your marketing materials and your marketing strategy and your pitching strategy to get up there and pitch and negotiate and book those events. And I think those are probably the big three things that everyone struggles to do properly, but that's what you need to do.
Yeah. And you have to start small. I mean, really start, doing kind of that community-based stuff to sort of see what starts to land for you really in terms of content and audience reaction. I mean, wouldn't you say that's a great training ground to just kind of keep doing, you got to speak in order to speak, right?
It is. I mean, it is. Although I will say though that for certain people, if they have a strong thought leadership brand already, they can go pretty high in the beginning. So like, let's say Bill Gates wasn't a speaker. And he's like, I've run IBM and I've made $1 billion. I want to go speak. He will be able to set a very high price and get out there and do stuff. Other people are just starting out. I mean, again, it depends on your brand and your thought leadership expertise, but you can actually build a strong one and get going. Other people have to do more. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a little bit of groundwork in terms of, I always recommend to my clients to do panels. Panels are easy, right? Just show up, talk, show your magic, show how charming and fun you can be and insightful you are. And people say, hey, I want to bring this person to my event.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah, that's great. And then heart-centered leadership. Let's get into that a little bit. So can you define that for me?
Yeah, the idea is that it's based on leveraging values that are heart-based. So when I look at some of my core values and how I run everything I do, from my business to my work to as a speaker, as well as an influencer on Twitter and LinkedIn, values of kindness, empathy, forgiveness, love. These are the driving forces behind what I do and how I engage people. And a good example is actually on Twitter. Twitter is a lot of hate and divisiveness and trolls, right? And when they come at me, I respond back with love and kindness, or trying to understand them. Until there's a time to let them go. But I don't see I see no reason to be divisive as they are. So I just respond back in kind. Why did you say that? Or what makes you feel this way? Or can I maybe help offer a different perspective and see what they say? Yeah. And when I do that, obviously some people don't come back in the right way. Other people do. And that serves me really well. It also serves in terms of relationships, because when you have a heart-based kind of leadership mentality, people remember that, right? How you make people feel is what everyone remembers. If you made them feel fantastic, they will remember you even years down the road, kind of like you did.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I remember you and I, we sat, we were involved in an event where we were both speakers, actually in California. And I remember very vividly you and I having our first engagement and feeling like I was the only person in the room that you were talking to, which was, which was appreciated. You were very connected and genuinely interested in who I was and what I was working on and, who I wanted to be in the world. And I, all these years later, I do remember having that conversation with you, which is why, we're having this conversation today, because it was such a lovely experience then. And we, stayed connected through social media over those years. But how lovely that was to just have that moment with you as strangers, and felt like, yeah, this is somebody who I could connect with after this speaking experience is over.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that you did well, that we both did well, was following up with the conversations and connecting again and having calls and things like that. I met a lot of people that trip, and I remember a good half dozen of them. But you're one of the ones that stayed in touch and followed up, and so that's why we're able to create this connection. That's an important piece of networking and connecting, right? To follow up.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let's get into networking a little bit, since you are a networking guru. Is that a learned skill? How did you learn how to be great at networking?
Well, I think a lot of people are natural connectors, and that's fine. Some of us are not, and I think so. There's some of us who have abilities naturally to lead or to be connectors and things like that. Other people need to learn the skills, but I think most of us understand that people are going to be an asset that's important in our lives, whether it's our corporate career, entrepreneurs, or even our personal lives. So we have to get good at talking to people and connecting with people. I think it's really important. Even if you're a lab rat and you don't want to talk to anybody, you still have to have a few connections with people. You have to be able to Otherwise, you lose opportunities. Someone who's not charming or someone who's like just kind of a grump or is
Mm-hmm.
awkward, they lose opportunities. So I think you can learn certain things, and I think so the key for me is whatever your personality is. Let's identify what the strengths are in you. So if let's say you're an introvert, do you have strengths of introspection, planning, organization, listening, right? If you do, we can take those skills and hone you to become a master networker. If you're a extrovert like me and you're social and you talk a lot, maybe one thing we can do is take your strengths and use those to help you become a master networker. And maybe work on the things that maybe shouldn't be, where you kind of blab too much or you talk too much, and learn to tone it down. So there's things you can do for any type of person to help them develop into becoming a networking master.
Yeah. And how has networking changed, do you think, in given COVID, the fact that we're not, all seeing each other face to face other than through Zoom or the online platforms? So what would you say in terms of, this new chapter that we're in and how to best network, given the fact that we're not all physically in the room together? I mean, we think of networking as that, cocktail party, business card exchange sort of experience,
Sure.
but how have we had to modify that given where we are in the world at the moment?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of things have changed in the sense that when 2020 started, I was going to launch a brand new speech I had, and I called it The Future of Connection Now. And it was going to talk about the crossroads between technology and disconnection from technology, as well as all the machines we're using all the time and platforms like Slack and Asana and Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and LinkedIn, and now COVID has advanced some of those things in terms of the platforms we're using and advanced some of the technology we're trying to use. At the same time, we're also becoming more. It's also advancing our gratitude around the disconnection of you just going to parks and going on a hike and having time with your family, and not worrying about all that stuff that you did before. So that said, a few things have come up. One is of course is constantly trying to stay in touch with people and booking calls and booking meetings, whether it's a phone call or a video call. I mean, just staying connected with the outside world. Calling my mom more often than I used to, calling my brothers. Like my brother calls me, a couple times a week, which he never did before.
Yeah.
And just checking in, like, okay, what's up? I mean, it's nice. I love it. So that's a big shift. The other big shift is the intimacy factor. So normally I'd meet people over coffee, but now I'm inviting them into my home, as you can see. Like, there's my family
Mm-hmm.
flag, and so there's an intimacy now with these video calls.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wearing a T-shirt. We're in each other's homes,
Right.
uh, and so I think I'm actually having some really deep conversations just on video, which is actually kind of cool. And
Yeah.
they're harder to do when you're at a coffee shop or in a business meeting or like a business conference or something like that. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's actually really interesting. And at the same time, I think that we have to manage the three big challenges of COVID, which I always talk about. One is the uncertainty principle. There's so much uncertainty between next year, this fall, next month, and even the next 2 weeks, because even
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks from now, they'll make an announcement about how we're doing. But we don't know
Mm-hmm.
about something happened a week ago that will then result in something a week later, because there's a 2 week kind of uncertainty
Mm-hmm.
timeline with COVID. And so we don't know what's going to happen a week or two from now. So it's really challenging. The second piece is what we call the overwhelm principle. So the overwhelm of information, what to do on everything, the overwhelm of disinformation in terms of sorting through that kind of stuff, and then the overwhelm of tasks in terms of our business, our kids, our families, our health, trying to navigate all that kind of stuff. Which leads to the third thing, which is mental wellness and mental well-being. We have to figure out how to navigate that, and I think it's going to be a huge challenge for us. And that's another reason why connection, both
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to personal connection with our families, connection with our friends and our family, and connection with communities and building strong, robust communities is going to be really, really important. In fact,
Yeah.
just a couple of days ago, I announced on Facebook for my friends. I said, "Look, I'm looking to put together just a weekly call with my favorite Facebook buddies who like to talk about all the issues of the day. Let's just talk just for an
Mm-hmm.
hour." And
Mm-hmm.
people are like, "Yeah, let's do this." And I think it's a great idea because we just want to create that community where we feel connected to something other than our daily routine, which we find every day seems to be like Groundhog Day. Like it's the same thing over and over
Mm-hmm.
again. And
Yeah.
so I think having that so I think community online is going to be really, really key for both brands, businesses, as well as people just working from home.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And I feel really grateful that that this moment is happening with this technology. Because could you
Yes.
imagine 20 years ago, what this experience would have been like had we not had the capacity to still do face to face, even through a screen.
And let
I
me
mean,
add one
how
more,
isolating.
absolutely. Let me add one more thing too, which is
Mm-hmm.
the importance of our online presence, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we now have to think about what our LinkedIn profiles look like. What is our online presence? What kind of content are we doing? You're doing these podcasts. I'm doing live casts. We all have to be building a strong thought leadership personal brand
Mm-hmm.
online. I think it's a huge thing that people are thinking about and how they're pivoting and repositioning themselves. And I think we all have to get good at the technology. So like someone who becomes a Zoom expert, they're going to do quite well. Someone who's good at
Yeah.
teaching kids online, they're going to do quite well. Even in the
Mm-hmm.
speaking world, there, of all the speakers that I know, there are some of them who don't translate well into the virtual space, and they're going to struggle. I think they're going to have a hard
Yeah.
time. And so, what about someone like myself who can train them to be better virtual speakers online? So these are
Right.
all things that we have to switch for the new normal,
Yeah,
or the now
definitely.
normal, as we call it.
The now normal. Yeah,
The now
that's
normal.
so true. That's so true. You spend a lot of your time or your energy in social media, and so why Twitter? I know Twitter for you is like another arm.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like an appendage for you. So why Twitter, and how did you go about building that community? I mean, at some point you only had one follower, and now you
That's right.
have hundreds of thousands of followers. And so how did that process go? Because I think people oftentimes just look at the number of followers and they don't understand the process it took to get to that. So
Yeah,
let's talk a little bit about that process
sure.
of social.
So, I mean, it's the same process as I've done on LinkedIn to build 55,000 followers, right? So on Twitter, the idea was to create great content, to be engaging, to leverage influencers, to leverage hashtags. There are certain strategic follows that you do of people that you think would resonate with your message, and I think that's important. Having a strong follow back strategy of people that follow you and you want to follow them back to show that you're willing to listen to their message.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but ultimately, it comes down to number one, your content, right? And number two, the consistency around your engagement and how you engage people, because I'm quite engaged on there, and so by doing so, I get a lot more traction around building it. And so when I first joined Twitter, I remember within 6 months I had 5,000 followers, and I was like, okay, this is good. Like this is working really well.
Yeah.
People are engaging. I booked my first speaking gig off of Twitter because someone liked my content. So it really comes down to that. And same with LinkedIn. Creating great content, leveraging influencers, leveraging hashtags, responding to people in a
Mm-hmm.
kind manner, so that more people will want to follow you. And pretty soon you get, what happens is people start tagging you, start getting listed, you start getting named in things, and next thing you know, things just start to take off because people like your brand, like what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so now you still do your weekly tweet chat called The Power of Connection?
Actually, we've actually stopped it
Okay.
very very recently, and the reason is because again, life is busy, and we came to the conclusion that it's just a bit too much now to take on stuff.
Yeah.
So
But what was the intention of it? So would you drop a question in and everyone would contribute to
yeah,
the
so
question, or?
the way it worked was you basically had well, actually we had more questions. We usually had 6 to 10 questions on a topic. So let's say the topic was personal branding. Okay, so then I would throw out 6 to 10 questions on personal branding. Everyone who's watching would answer. I would also give my answers, and people would retweet each other and comment or
Mm-hmm.
reply. It was actually what was amazing about it was an incredible way to crowdsource information in 1 hour, because you could get like a dozen or sometimes even 100 people all comment on that same conversation, and you'd have like incredible amounts of information in just 1 hour of
Yeah.
time. And so that was kind of cool. I really like that aspect of tweet chats, and I sometimes still guest host tweet chats. Every once in a while people ask me, and I'll do them because one of the things of being on Twitter is I've learned to become really good at the fast send out there, and sometimes they're good golden nuggets. I'm really good at being concise, I'm really good at doing it fast.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as you're developing new content too, it's a good tool for you to sort of test what's resonating with people, or where there are additional questions for people too, is by using social media and just kind of dropping it in and seeing what sort of reactions that you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, the best part about building a brand is, and most people don't do this, they don't just start. Like, just put something out there, put something on Twitter, put something on LinkedIn, put something on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you are, and just see what
Mm-hmm.
happens. And make it engaging, make it informative, make it entertaining, make it insightful. Not something
Mm-hmm.
boring or people don't care about. But if you do
Right.
that, I mean, people will start to engage. When I started on Twitter, all I started out with was, I called it power of connection rule number one. And I said, smile. Then the next day, I tweeted once per day back in the day. Power of connection number two, listen. And that's all I did, right? And then eventually people started responding back. And next thing you know, I was engaging people, and I started tweeting even more and more.
Yeah. Is it hard to come up with content every day?
For me, no. It's very easy for me because I can take any content. Like I just say, here's my mask I wore today, right? It says, you can read
Oh
this,
yeah.
not too close. I could do a post on that right now if I wanted to, right?
Yeah.
I could just say, what's the lesson I learned about masks? Well, masks to me remind me of seatbelts. It reminds me of,
Mm-hmm.
not smoking areas. Eventually, in the
Right.
beginning, people hated it, but eventually they got used to it because it was for health and safety. So you know what? I'll just get used to it. I
Yeah.
can do, like a mouse. Here's my mouse. I can make a post about why I still use a mouse and most millennials don't. And I'll say the mouse makes me faster. And I say, you know what? I love millennials,
Mm-hmm.
God bless them. But if we had an Excel competition and they did it without their mouse, I would beat them, even though I'm a Gen X. Right? I mean, they still want to do it their way, and that's fine. But,
Yeah.
like, that's a blog post. Like, I mean, the
Right.
thing is, you take any sort of content, you just say, here's the what, here's the so what, and what do I want to say about it?
Yeah. What I really enjoy is how authentic you are in all of your posts. I know you talk a lot about your weight struggles
Right.
and just, being a husband and a family man and a, professional and all the things that make texture to life. And you are not afraid to share those vulnerabilities and those honest moments. And I think that's certainly why, I've continued to engage with you, just because I love the authenticity that you bring, especially to social media in a world where it's so easy to be anything but authentic on social, right? Everybody just wants to see the pretty picture. So was that a choice for you, or how did that become part of your brand as well?
Well, when I started launching my brand and thinking about my overall thought leadership brand was, there's lots of questions about, should I have two accounts on Instagram or two Twitter accounts? There's my business, there's my yoga enthusiast, and then there's me as a dad. Like, how do you? And ultimately, I was like, man, that just sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so I was like, well, for each one I'm on, there's certain things I talk about, and it's far easier to be yourself than to be someone
Hmm.
you're not. And so when I talk
Yeah.
about branding, like, be authentic. Like, gosh, why do you want to spend the rest of your life living someone that you're not? Spend the time being who you are, and it's far
Hmm.
easier. It's less of a chore to change who you are. So I think authenticity is a key part, not just of branding and connecting, but
Hmm.
just of running a business that you're doing and being an entrepreneur. So I think I chose that eventually, and I was like, and now I stick to it quite well. Like, I mean, I basically have one brand across the board. Now each one has
Hmm.
different things. Like, Facebook is for personal shares as well as maybe things that are personal to me, like social justice, diversity, things like that.
Hmm.
LinkedIn is mostly professional stuff, but 20% is personal. And then Twitter is far more political and personal. And Twitter is mostly everything. I'll do humor jokes. I'll talk about Star Wars. I'll talk about
Hmm.
Marvel Avengers. Like, I'll talk about anything there,
Yeah.
because it allows me to. So I have a different methodology for each of the different platforms, but ultimately
Hmm.
they're all things that I care about and are me. And I think it's just easier. Like, don't you want it to be easier? Don't you want to spend your
Yeah.
time being yourself or someone else? I mean, that to me is the ultimate
Yeah.
aha
No,
moment.
I agree. I agree
It
completely.
also connects with people too, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just that authenticity is so important. So, who are you looking up to these days? Who are you counting as mentors?
That's a good question. Um, well, I mean, my business coach is a good mentor. I like soundboarding things off him. I think he's great. I love following people like Brené Brown and Gary Vaynerchuk. I think the
Hmm.
stuff they talk about, they're too different, but like,
Hmm.
Gary Vaynerchuk's all about the hustle, entrepreneurship, and kindness.
Yeah.
And then Brené Brown's all about vulnerability, authenticity, and things like that. And I love that too. And they're very different in terms of their style, but I think those are people that I really love seeing what they're doing.
Have you
And
had a chance to meet Gary V yet?
no, like, I came so close. It
Yeah,
was
I
so
know. I
so
saw that
frustrating.
video.
So frustrating. Yeah, I almost had the chance, didn't work out. We've exchanged a few messages here and there, but nothing personal, nothing live. Someday.
Yeah. Someday. That's right.
Yeah,
Someday. No, I agree with you. Those two are both amazing thought leaders, and at the heart of everything they're doing is kindness and vulnerability. And I think that that's really an important lesson, that you can be both wildly successful and also have heart. And that is sometimes lost in translation.
right.
So I think that's really important. Yeah, definitely. Let's talk a little bit about a big ask, since that's the theme of the
Sure.
podcast. So, have you had to make big asks in your life and in your business? And what was the process for that? And what was the result?
Yeah. So, I mean, given that I'm pivoting from the fact there's no speaking events, and even the ones in the fall are either canceling or they're turning to virtual, I have to think about how I want to, navigate this. And so I
Hmm.
started sending emails to a bunch of people and started having conversations via email. And pretty soon, within those email exchanges, I started asking, saying, "Listen, I'm looking for help. Like, here's what's
Yeah.
happening. I said, here's my industry is devastated. I'm pivoting to this. I'm asking," and I asked them for help, and I offer to help too. But I say, "Look,
Sure.
I'm looking to help each other out." So that to me was a big ask. And
Yeah.
then the other big ask was I actually went to one of my cousin actually, and I said, "Look, uh, if there's an opportunity to do some work for your learning, he's a learning development company." I said, "Listen, there's an opportunity to do work for your company because you've been asking me for years, and I've always I've always ignored you for 10 years." So I said, "But listen, I could use some support. Can you help me out?" He said, "Sure." And we had a big
Yeah.
conversation, and so now I'm helping his company out a little bit. So
Right.
so that's good. I mean, and it was hard. It's hard to swallow sometimes when the need to ask for help, but it takes courage to ask for help, and it's actually a
Hmm.
good way to really um, I guess stay grounded, but
Hmm.
also stay focused on the task that you're trying to, save your business or build a business or trying to do what's best for you and your family. And I think everyone's in that same situation. So when I told my cousin that, he totally got it. He's like, "Yeah, man, like
Yeah.
you gotta provide, man, and I get it. So let me help you
Yeah.
out."
That's great. Yeah. And as I often say, if you don't tell me what you need, I don't know how to help you. Right. And so in that instance, your cousin didn't know that that
Right.
was what you were needing in that moment. Right. And
Yes.
so being
Yes.
able to be brave enough to step forward and just say, here's the situation. If there's anything I can do to help you, which would help me,
Yeah.
that's a win-win situation for everybody. So, no, those are great examples. Thank you for that, for sharing that. Cause the big ask, I think, is, it is intimidating to people. They think that it'll be seen as a sign of weakness, perhaps, or that I'm struggling, and in
Right.
reality, it's really more of a sign of strength. That, hey, I'm trying to get ahead of this. I'm trying to do
Yeah.
everything I can. I'm not afraid to work hard and to hustle, and this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's great. Given the amount of networking that you do, is it exhausting for you? Like, how do you keep everybody straight? How do you remember that you and I met in, California, whatever, 8 years ago or whatever it might have been, right? So
Well,
how do you keep it? What's your process for
Well, first off, I don't remember everybody. Like, it's not possible, right? But I mean, like, but I remember meeting you. I remember it was Biz Bash. Like, I remember
it?
in certain
Hmm.
aspects of it, right? So,
Yeah.
so with repetition, you start to remember people. But the big thing that helps me out is that whenever I don't know, I'll just be upfront. "Listen, sorry, I don't remember where we met.
Yeah.
Can you provide some context for me?" And people understand, like, and if
Yeah.
they feel like, "How can you not remember me, Bobby?" Well, okay, well, sorry. But I think I'm very authentic about being apologetic and vulnerable about that. I think that's
Hmm.
fine. So that makes it easier to do. I think for the most part. How to keep? I often had a system for keeping track. Like when I used to add people on LinkedIn, I would tag them with a certain word that would help me, like whether they're an audience member or whether it's someone I partner with or someone that I met at a specific event that I would remember. So there were
Uh-huh.
things that I would do to tag with myself. But now that it's kind of out of control, and I have like now 55,000 followers on LinkedIn that I can't keep track of, and the 468,000 on Twitter. Like, it's very hard to do that. And people often message me and say, "Oh," or even on the street. Oh, I was at a grocery store, so I was like, "Hey, I followed you on Instagram." I'm like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you," and we started
Yeah.
chatting. So yeah, you just keep it real and be authentic and understanding about that. And when it
Yeah.
comes to staying in touch with people, you post status updates and post up for everybody. And then for the ones you really want to stay in touch with, you send them more direct private messages via email or text or whatever.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Who are you following these days? Who are you? I know you said Gary Vee and Brene Brown, but what are you listening to in terms of podcasts or books that you're reading? How are you getting inspiration? now?
For the most part, I have a comedic background, and I say that I love some of the best comedians that are out there sharing content, particularly political stuff. So I always listen to Stephen Colbert, Trevor
Hmm.
Noah, John Oliver, and then Hassan Minaj. Probably those four are the big ones. So all four of them, I just love their stuff. I'll
Hmm.
sometimes dabble in other ones as well, like Samantha Bee or Bill Maher. But those four are probably the ones that I listen to them while I'm doing dishes. I listen to them while I'm, going for a walk. Like they're the
Yeah.
ones. I haven't gotten a podcast honestly. Like I've tried. I've been on over 120 podcasts myself as a guest, but I haven't actually, listened to podcasts. Although I understand that it's the most digestible content out there.
Yeah.
I've been interested in looking at Pod Save America. I've heard that's really, really good, and I might
Hmm.
be interested in maybe trying that out and see what
Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
Well, it'd be such a great platform for you too, with all the great content that you have and all of the
Sure, but
people
I'm
you can
busy. You
connect
just
with.
said
I
you just
know
said I have no
you're busy.
time. So like I do a live cast. I do a live cast twice a week, right? That's
Yeah.
enough for me, and there's hardly any production value. It's just my phone. That's all it is. Yeah, I'm not a techie, so for me, I'm keeping it real. But I'll show up on podcasts as easy to show up and share my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Sure. No, that's so true. I didn't think in the beginning that I was going to like podcasting to as a listener because I'm not an auditory learner. And
Right.
so for me that just to have that constant conversation in my head is a little bit was a little bit tough to get used to, but now it's how I love to get content and I find
Nice.
myself when I'm walking or running or even in my car, it's like I feel like if I have, time I need to be learning something and just see it it's just fascinating to hear such the great content and it's digestible when you want it, and that's the great thing about podcasting. So
It's great.
so maybe at some point for you down
Well,
the line.
and I'll tell you, I tell a lot of people right now when it comes to connection and online and building a strong brand, the four hottest trends right now: Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and podcasting. So
Yeah.
if you want to pick one of those, just one,
Hmm.
and run
Yep.
with it, you can do quite
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Have you gotten into the TikTok?
No, it's not really for me. It's not my audience.
Yeah.
So I'm focused on building LinkedIn right now.
Yeah.
Twitter
Yeah.
Twitter is where it is, which is fine. Now
Yeah.
I'm working on building LinkedIn.
And so let's talk about LinkedIn a little bit.
Sure.
Best tips for building a profile for LinkedIn.
Well, I think a lot of people don't take the time to really leverage the proper. I mean, the basic proper headshot, a great headline that tells people exactly what you do, especially your target audience, and then the summary. Put in the summary a nice story about who you are and how you help people, and give them reasons to
Hmm.
quickly contact you. Because people on LinkedIn, they don't want to like try to scroll. They want to try. They want to try to figure stuff out, right? So
Yeah.
that's what they're trying to do. So
Yeah.
I think that you make it easy for them. Give them the links right away. Make it clear. Here's how I help people. Here's who you can contact me, and let's get it. Make sure you have a really full profile. That makes a really big difference.
Yeah, definitely. And use it as somewhat as a blog too. I mean, it's such a great platform for conveying, short articles or connecting to longer articles that you've written
Yeah.
or just, dropping questions in to sort of get some community around a
Well, the big
particular
thing is to,
question.
yeah, I mean, I encourage everyone to create content, but if you can't, then comment on people's content and demonstrate your expertise. Like that's a huge way to build engagement on who you are and what your brand is.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. So you said that in the beginning of the year you had a new topic for your speech that you were going to do. So that was obviously exciting you in the beginning of the year. What
Yeah.
else are you working on that is exciting you right now?
What's exciting me right now is I'm about to launch a brand new, not only a course, but it's a full program. So personal branding is a really hot topic right now. People are trying to figure out how to reposition, replay,
Hmm.
pivot on what they're trying to do, or build their brand. So I've been doing personal branding workshops for a decade, but I finally compressed it into an online course with 25 videos and 30 plus exercise and questions, which is about 20 hours plus of work, but it's all
Great.
online. And in addition to that, I'm launching it with a community program where basically people can get access to me and a community of people that want to work on their brands, and we'll have weekly calls. And so that's launching imminently, like in a week or two. So I'm very, very excited about that. So
That's
that's
awesome.
that's probably the big thing I'm excited about. And then the second thing I've started working on, I did a poll on LinkedIn and asked, what other content you want me to create? And the winner was, I thought it was going to be LinkedIn engagement, but no, the winner was storytelling. So now I'm going to talk about how to do storytelling across the media. So how to storytell on Twitter, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, video content, courses, speaking. I'm going to basically talk about everything about storytelling. So I'll probably work on that course this summer.
Okay, that's great. And anyone who's interested in being a part of those courses, how would they best find you?
Yeah, just you can follow me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. My handle is Raeallen Bobby, or you can just reach out to my companies with the personal brand company called dypb.ca. Discover your personal brand.
That's great. Amazing. So, oh my gosh, all good nuggets, Bobby. Thank you so much for that. So we're gonna wrap up here with our rapid fire questions. Are you ready? I know it's very exciting. So whatever comes to top of mind, no judgment, just have fun with it. Okay. Number one question, title of your lifetime movie.
Wow, these are hard. Okay. Oh my gosh, the 20-second hugger.
Perfect. If you could change places with any celebrity right this minute, who would it be?
Salma Hayek's husband.
That is an amazing
my wife's
answer.
staring at me. What are you talking about?
That is an amazing answer. Oh my God.
Not a celebrity though, eh?
That's okay. That's a perfect answer. That is like, you can't get better than that. All right. Question 3. When do you feel happiest?
With my kids outside. We're going on a hike, or we're just chilling in the water at a beach. Like that type of stuff is the best.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you're running for politics, what would be your biggest campaign promise?
Biggest campaign promise? Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm very political. So, I mean, the biggest campaign promise I would probably say is like really focusing on helping the most vulnerable people in the world. I mean, that is like the biggest challenge, I think, in this world. We don't pick up the vulnerable people. We don't take care of them as much as we could. I think that would be my number one promise.
Yeah, that's great. And I am amazed at how tuned in you are to American politics too. You do a lot of commenting about American politics on your social. And so I think that's amazing that you're paying that close attention to what's happening, in the border below you.
Well, I think it affects everyone and everywhere.
Yeah.
Plus, as Canadians, we're super integrated in many ways, and we're very similar. And I think it's important to know what's going on in the world too. And I think like everything that happens close by is going to happen here too. So
yeah, definitely. Next question. Ultimate dinner party. Which 4 guests do you invite and why?
Oh, wow. Ultimate dinner party. Well, we'll have to invite Salma Hayek because I brought her up already. And she's one of my biggest celebrity crushes. And I think she's really awesome. That's one. Number 2, I'd probably want to invite one of those 4 comedians I talked about. I'll go with Stephen Colbert. I just think he's a really fun guy. I think he'd be a good guy to be friends with and to know really well. I just love his energy, and he reminds me of being a dad and things like that. So I think I'd probably pick him. Let's see other people. I'd love to invite really I'd love to invite Brené Brown. I mean, I just think she's really great. I love the way she talks, the way she does stuff. So I think she'd be really great to talk to. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna invite the Obamas. I just think they're among the most thoughtful and engaging couples I know.
Great, awesome. All right, right this minute you have to get a tattoo. What do you get and why?
My kids' names. It's the only thing in my life that's permanent and forever.
Perfect. Great. Biggest pet peeve in business?
People who don't read emails. Right?
Yes.
Just read the damn email. It says exactly what it is, and you're asking questions that are in the email.
Perfect. What is your wish for the next generation?
I hope they find a way to really focus on processing their emotions and better mental health, because I think it's going to be one of the biggest challenges of their life.
Yeah, that's great. When does your light shine the brightest?
When I'm on stage in front of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
That, or when I'm with a bunch of like 10 kids at a picnic. One of those two.
Extremes. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Last question. What is your big ask, either personal and professional, right this minute, and how can we help you?
Wow. Well, I mean, I think my big ask is, as I launch my professional program on personal branding, I'm looking for affiliates. So if there's people out there that have influence, that care about personal branding, personal development, and want to help people find more alignment and focus on their lives, then I would love to get people to help me promote this program and get it out there and help change people's lives for the better. So I think that's probably my big professional ask. And then from a personal level, I want everyone to really look at the 3 rules of empathy, like when in any sort of engagement, right? So when you're online with trolls or wherever you are, empathy is asking yourself 3 questions. Can I understand how this person's feeling? Can I understand why they feel this way? And number 3, most important, how can I support those feelings?
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, the world will be a much more heart-centric place.
Mm-hmm. No better way to end it all than in that moment, Bobby. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Big S podcast. And most importantly, thanks for making the world a better place, because the content that you're sharing with all of us on a daily basis really does matter. So thank you for the important work that you're doing.
Thanks, Nicole. Great to be here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Thank you.